let's begin in seated pose. You can bring a blanket underneath the sit bones just to elevate the hips a little bit here if you'd like. So let's place the hands on the knees and we can close the eyes to begin our practice. So just taking a moment to settle into our practice. We want to begin to draw awareness to the breath as we inhale through the nose and exhale through the nose. Allow the sit bones to weigh heavy down onto the earth. Feel the shoulders soften down from the ears. And with your next inhale, maybe feeling a little bit taller, feeling that crown of the head floating up towards the ceiling, creating extra space through the spine. And just letting any tension or worries from the day begin to slowly melt away with each breath. And then with your next inhale, really feel that inhale come into the lungs, maybe the middle of the lungs and then the bottom of the lungs, where we expand the belly outwards to fill the entire lungs. And then as you exhale, draw the belly button in towards the spine as you squeeze the breath out of the bottom of the lungs and then the middle of the lungs and then the top of the lungs. So we really want to see if we can focus on bringing that breath in a little bit deeper. And maybe lengthening the breath, both the inhale and the exhale. So the practice of yoga is more about focusing on that breath, always coming back to that breath. And that's why it's so important to begin by bringing your awareness to this breath at the beginning of every practice. And then we can slowly blink the eyes open and bring some movement into the body. So if you have a blanket underneath or a block underneath the sit bones, just remove it and place it to the side. And then with the hands on the knees, as you inhale, draw the heart forward, coming into like a seated cow position. And then as you exhale, round the back, straightening the arms, coming into a seated cat. You can look towards the belly button. So as you inhale, the heart draws forward, the shoulder blades draw back and closer to one another. As you exhale, round the back, look to the belly button. So let the breath move you. So that inhale draws the spine forward. We look up slightly. And then as you exhale, the breath takes you back. So doing this a few times just to warm up the spine. Still bringing that awareness to the breath. And then with your next inhaling breath, come back to your neutral seated position and we'll move into tabletop pose. So taking the legs out underneath, really spreading the fingers out nice and wide. We want the wrists just below the shoulders and the knees below the hips, about hip width apart. You can tuck the toes if you'd like, or you can flatten the toes onto the earth. So with your inhale, we're going to stay neutral. Draw the belly in just a little bit to support that low back. As you exhale, you can look towards your right toes. The tailbone also comes to the right, taking the spine into a C shape. So this is with the exhale. As you inhale, come back to center. And then the exhale takes us over to the left, looking towards the left toes. And the tailbone also coming to the left. And then inhale, center. And we'll move with the breath. So as you exhale, we look to one side, come into that C shape. As you inhale, we come back to our center. Exhale, we look to the side. So letting that breath guide the movement, warming up the spine from side to side. And then do that one more time. And coming back to your center, we'll find our first downward facing dog. So make sure the toes are tucked. You might take the hands out a little bit further in front of the body, making sure those fingers are spread out nice and wide. And then draw the belly button in towards the spine as you float the sit bones up towards the ceiling. So taking a look at the feet, they should be about hip width apart or even a little bit closer. We can draw the heels down towards the earth. And then bringing some movement into our down dog. As you inhale, come onto the balls of the feet. Float those hips up even higher. And then as you exhale, draw the heels down towards your mat. So we inhale, float up. Exhale, draw the heels down. Doing this a few times with the breath. So just warming up the back of the legs. Let's do that one more time as we inhale, floating up. Exhale, ground the heels down. Now, with your next inhale, let's walk the feet up to the hands into a forward fold. You can have quite a bit of a bend in the knees here if the fingertips want to touch the earth. Exhale, we fold over the legs. Then as we inhale, press into the earth. The arms are going to come all the way up overhead. And then as you exhale, hands can come down to the heart. So moving through a few sun salutations here, or variations of a sun salutation. So feet are hip width apart. Hands can come to the heart. Inhale, sweep those arms up overhead. Exhale, we hinge at the hips. Inhale, we come into a half lift. And then exhale, plant the hands, step just the right foot back, and then come down into a low lunge so that right knee comes down to the earth. You can uncurl those toes and then see if those hands will come flat down onto the earth or maybe stay on the fingertips. So you can take the weight forward, but you want to make sure that a lot of your weight is in the arms. So your arms are supporting at least half of your body weight here, or in this front leg. So we don't want all the weight in our right hip. We want it in that front leg and the hands here. So as you inhale, see if you can lengthen through the crown. And as you exhale, maybe sink a little bit deeper into this low lunge. And bringing awareness back to that breath. And coming through a vinyasa, so planting the hands, tuck that back toe and then, or back toes, straighten the leg, and then step that left leg back to come into plank. You can take those knees down right away here, and then hug the elbows in as you come all the way down to the earth. Uncurl the toes. We're coming into Cobra, so you still want those elbows hugging into the body. And then inhale, lift the heart, lift the chest. Look forward. Lots of space between the shoulders and the ears. And then as you exhale, lower down, tuck the toes, press yourself up, hug the belly button in as you come into your down dog. and find that breath. So we breathe in through the nose and we breathe out through the nose. With your next inhale, let's walk those feet up to the hands again. As you exhale, fold over the legs. Inhale, press into the feet, sweep the arms all the way up overhead. And then as you exhale, take the hands to heart. We'll get the other side. So we inhale, we sweep up. Exhale, hinge at the hips. Inhale, half lift. And then exhale, we take the left leg back, take that knee down to the earth, and then uncurl the toes. We can stay on the fingertips or take the hands flat down on your mat. Just making sure that most of your weight is in the hands and into that front leg. If the wrists are kind of not happy here or in any situation, you can always take it onto fists. This supports the wrists a little bit more. Just make sure you sink a little bit deeper here into that low lunge. And then finding that vinyasa. Now, if you don't want to come through this vinyasa, you can always just stay in down dog or even child's pose or tabletop. But if you'd like to come through, straighten that back leg, step the right leg back. Hug those elbows in. You can take the knees down or come all the way through that chaturanga as you hug those elbows in. Untuck the toes. Take those shoulders back and down from the ears. Inhale, lift the heart. Come into your Cobra. And as you exhale, lower down, tuck the toes. Press up and into downward facing dog. And breathe. With your inhale, walk those feet up to the hands. Exhale, fold over the legs. Inhale, press into the feet. Sweep the arms up overhead. Exhale, hands to heart. Inhale, sweep up. Exhale, we hinge. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, plant the hands, step that right leg back again, take the knee down to the earth. This time, stay on to the fingertips. So we'll come into what I like to call a cat-cow lunge. So as you inhale, we're going to lift the gaze, lift the head. We can sink our hips down real good here. So we inhale, we lift and lengthen, a little bit of an arch to the spine. You can even float that right knee off the earth for a little deeper stretch. Then as you exhale, we're going to straighten that front leg. That right heel comes down towards the earth, and we really round over that front leg. So this is as we exhale. See if you can keep those hips square with the front of your mat. So we inhale, float the body forward, look up, lengthen through the crown. As we exhale, round the back, straighten that front leg. Allow the body to move with the breath. So seeing if you can keep those hips square as you move back and forth. Maybe that back knee hovers as you come forward, lifting that heart. And then the next time you come forward, take that knee to the earth. We'll come through that vinyasa again, so you can plant the hands, step that left leg back, come into plank, knees down if that's helpful, hugging the elbows in. Come on down. Inhale, lift the heart. Exhale, lower down, tuck the toes, press up and back into your down dog. So we have one more side, one more sun salutation. With your inhale, let's walk those feet up to the hands. Exhale, fold over the legs. Inhale, press into the feet, sweep the arms all the way up overhead, and then exhale, hands to heart. With an inhale, sweep the arms up. Exhale, hinge at the hips. Inhale, half lift, and then exhale, step that left leg, nice giant step back, and then take the knee down. So coming through our cat and cow lunge on this side. So as you inhale, we're going to draw the crown of the head up and forward a little bit. So taking that heart up and out. Bringing a little bit of an arch to the spine. And then as you exhale, we're going to straighten that front leg. That back left heel grounds down. So we inhale, draw it forward. See if that back knee will hover. Exhale, round the back. Look to those back left toes. So we inhale, lengthen. Exhale, round the back. So allow that breath to lead the movement. Next time that knee comes down and forward, we'll find our Vinyasa again. So taking the right leg back, lower down as you exhale. Inhale, we find our Cobra. And then exhale, downward facing dog. Breathe here. So this is a good opportunity to find that awareness with your breath. Bringing that attention to the breath. And then with your next inhale, let's walk those feet up to the hands. Exhale, fold over the legs. Inhale, press into the feet, sweep the arms up overhead. Exhale, hands to heart. So coming into mountain pose, just taking a look at the feet, make sure they're about hip width apart. And the toes are spread out nice and wide. With an inhale, sweep the arms up overhead, clasp the right wrist, and then just draw it over. So you should feel a good stretch through that right side body. With an inhale, take it back to center, clasp the left wrist, and then draw it over to the opposite side. So an inhale takes us back to center, and we'll do that one more time. So clasp the right wrist and then draw it over as you exhale. Inhale to center. Last time as you exhale, hinge. Inhale takes us back to center. Exhale, hands come to the heart. So let's find tree pose. We're going to spread our right toes out nice and wide, shift our weight over to that right leg, and then take this left foot and just bring it into like a kickstand here. So the hands can stay at the heart, or we can place them on the belly. Right on the belly button helps. Keep those shoulders softening down from the ears. And we can find a focal point on the floor. That can help with balance. And if you need that extra support, you can find a chair or a wall. And then maybe that foot floats up a little bit higher. You can keep it underneath the knee joint. If you want to bring it even higher, making sure that we're not on the knee joint. So it's either above the knee or below the knee. And finding where those hands want to be. So maybe we keep them at the heart. Maybe the arms float overhead. Continuing to be aware of the breath. A lot of times in balancing postures, we forget about the breath because we're so focused on trying to keep our balance. we can slowly come out of our tree pose. Hands can come down to the heart. Take that leg forward and then just release it and just wiggle out through the legs. And we'll move to the other side. So we want to spread those left toes out nice and wide. Shift your weight over to that left leg and then draw the right foot in and that knee points out. So maybe finding that same focal point, being aware of the breath. And then that foot might lift, float a little bit higher. And once again, if you want to come all the way up to the inner thigh, you can do so, just staying off the knee joint. So hands can remain at the heart or maybe on the belly, or maybe the hands lift up overhead. Whichever version of tree you choose, just making sure to come back to that breath. When the mind wanders, we just gently bring it back. And then the hands can slowly come back down to the heart. Release that left or that right leg down and just wiggle the legs out. So coming back to our mountain stance where the feet are hip width apart, we're going to inhale, sweep the arms up. As you exhale, hinge at the hips, come into a forward fold. The fingertips can release down towards the earth. If the fingertips don't reach the earth, you can bend into the knees. Allow the head to weigh heavy, so there's no holding in the neck here. So we're just allowing the head to rest. And then with an inhale, come halfway up to a flat back. The hands can rest on the shins or the thighs. And then as you exhale, fold down, maybe a little bit deeper. So we inhale, half lift, lengthen, lift the heart. Exhale, we fold. We'll do that one more time. So inhale, lift and lengthen. Exhale, fold. And then plant the hands onto your mat. Step the feet back to plank pose. Hug those elbows in here. So if this is a bit much on the body, you can take the knees down for that extra support. And then we'll come all the way down to the earth. So releasing the chest down and uncurl the toes. We're going to find Sphinx Pose. So come on to your forearms or your elbows. So elbows are going to be directly below the shoulders and about shoulder width apart. Fingers are going to spread out nice and wide, and we'll take the gaze forward. So a lot of times the shoulders kind of hunch up towards the ears. Press into those forearms, press into those elbows. So we lift and lengthen, and we have lots of space between the shoulders and the ears. See if you can soften the low back, and then feel like it's the upper back that's doing most of the bending and most of the work. As you breathe in, feel some length through the spine, coming up right out of the crown of the head. Feel the front body expanding a little bit, lengthening. And then as you exhale, let's lower on down. Plant the hands underneath the shoulders. We're going to tuck the toes and come into a child's pose. So pressing up, we can take the knees nice and wide, big toes together. Walk the sit bones back towards the heels, and then release the forehead towards the earth. The arms can lengthen out in front of the body, or maybe they just rest beside with the palms facing up towards the ceiling. And
And just being aware of the breath again here. So maybe feeling the back ribs expanding up towards the ceiling as you inhale, feeling the belly expanding towards the floor as you inhale. And now we can plant the hands on the earth, slowly come all the way up, and we'll find ourselves in hero pose. So keeping the legs bent underneath, just draw the thighs and the knees close together. If this is too much for the knees or for the ankles or any part of the body, you can come to an easy cross-seated position instead. So placing the palms face open on the thighs or the knees, we can close the eyes, allow the shoulders to melt down from the ears again. And then just be aware of the breath. Breathing in through the nose, breathing out through the nose. And then blink the eyes open and we'll come into a gentle twist. So let's take the right hand and we're going to plant it just behind that right foot. The left hand is going to come to the outside of the opposite thigh. Inhale, lengthen through the crown, and then as you exhale, look over that right shoulder. And we want to feel like it's the upper back that's doing most of the twisting. So try not to use the arms to yank ourselves around. We're just using the upper back to do most of it. And then an inhale floats us back to center. We'll get the other side. So the left hand plants just behind the left foot and the right hand comes over to the opposite thigh. Inhale, lengthen through the crown. And then as you exhale, look over that left shoulder. Still breathing nice and deeply into our twist. And then an inhale floats us back to center. We can take the legs out from underneath the body. Take them nice and wide. And then flex the toes in. So we bring lots of muscle energy through the back of the legs. If this feels kind of uncomfortable here, you can take that blanket or block and place it underneath the sit bones. That can sometimes help to elevate the hips here. So keeping those toes flexed in, we're going to plant the hands in front of the body. This may be enough of a stretch and you can stay right here. If you want a little bit more, inhale, lengthen through the crown, and then as you exhale, let's walk those hands forward. So the heart is drawing us down towards the earth. Well, we're only going to our edge, so we don't want to push or pull or force anything. Just give into gravity. And with each inhale, maybe lengthening through that crown. With each exhale, sinking that heart forward slightly more. With an inhale, walk the hands back up to neutral. Bring those legs in. Plant the hands just behind the body and kind of shake the legs out a little bit. And we'll come on to our back body. So taking the feet to the bottom of your mat and then slowly coming down onto the back body. You can come down onto the elbows first and then eventually the shoulders come down. Hug the knees into the chest when you eventually get to the bottom of your mat. And you can even rock the legs from side to side. So just giving the low back a little bit of a massage on the floor. And then we can take the arms out about 45 degrees away from the body and the legs about 90 degrees, where the feet feel like as if they're resting on an invisible chair in front of us. We inhale here, and then as you exhale, float the legs over to the right side of the body. See if you can hover, and then inhale to center. And then exhale, we float over to the left side. Allow them to hover. And then inhale to center. Let's come on over to the right side and allow them to land down here. You can place that right hand on top of the top thigh if that feels okay. You might even scooch that right hip under if that feels better for the low back. You can close the eyes here and soften the breath, soften the body. And then with an inhale, float the legs back to neutral. And let's take it over to the other side. So as you exhale, allow the knees to come down over to the left side of the body. That left hand might rest onto the top thigh to bring in a little bit of a deeper stretch. Bringing awareness to the breath. And then an inhale floats it back to center. We can take the legs long onto the earth, maybe coming into reclined tree. So we plant the right foot down beside the left knee and then allow that right knee to open up to the right. The arms can come overhead into a diamond shape with the elbows flaring out if this feels comfortable for the elbows and the shoulders. Breathe into the openness in the chest. And then let's get the other side. So float that right leg up and exchange legs. So that left leg comes up, the right leg extends long, and then allow that left knee to open up to the left. Allow the breath to soften. Allow the body to soften. And then an inhale floats the left leg back up. We'll come into Shavasana. So we can keep the legs bent up if we'd like, with the knees touching, or come into a traditional Shavasana, but taking the legs out nice and long. Whatever feels good here in your body. Allow the palms to face open towards the ceiling, and then allow the body to settle down onto the earth and absorbing the benefits of the practice. Breathe naturally and simply notice where the breath is easiest to detect and where the breath also feels pleasant or at least neutral. So you might pay attention to how the breath feels as it flows in and out of your nose. You might feel the touch of your breath around your nostrils or on your upper lip. Or perhaps you feel the movement of your chest or the rising and falling of your belly. Or perhaps you feel your whole body like a balloon expanding with the in-breath, deflating with the out-breath. Just take a moment to bring your attention to the sensations of breathing, a relaxed attentiveness,
There's no need to control the breath. Rather, sense you are receiving the breath, much like you'd listen to sound. With a relaxed awareness, discover what the breath is really like as a changing experience of sensations. Simply relax as the breath comes in. Notice what it's like, and relax with the exhale. Let go, and again, notice the immediate experience of sensations. Notice where your attention is, feeling the aliveness in the body. I'll bring you back. Slowly begin to wiggle the toes and the fingers, ankles and wrists. Maybe rocking the head from one side to the other. And just gently bringing back some small movement. Maybe stretching the arms and legs really long. Or hugging the knees into the chest. Doing whatever feels good here for the body. Slowly coming back to the room. And then eventually rolling over to the right side of the body. Pausing here for a moment. And then planting the left hand onto the floor, gently come all the way up to a seated position. You can remain with your eyes closed and placing one hand on the heart and one hand on the belly. Just take a final moment to connect with the breath in the body. Thank you for practicing today. Shanti, peace. Namaste.